in a course, in a tournament where everyone except for one of the best golfers in the world was under par. So you saw a whole lot of carnage, a whole lot of calamity. But when you've got a drivable par 4, that's the scoring opportunity. And out of over 470 drives into that 17th hole, everyone's trying to go for the green pretty much.
Yep.
Only 4 were better than JJ Spaun's on 17 to birdie that hole after he tube up from there. Then, of course, that long putt on 18 to win it.
And there are plenty of people who kind of pooped the sheets, as I call it, Tyrell Hatton being one of them. Now, Christian, once again, the live golfers right there. I mean, you got John Rahm finishing at 4, and I say 4 over, but he was tied for 7th. And to your credit, there was one player who was under par for the course. I like that, and we talk about that all the time. I like seeing these guys get challenged, and I thought this was one of the bigger challenges you've seen professional golfers take on in a long time. I thought McIntyre's charge at the end, the Scottish man, I thought that was fun. Victor Hovland made things interesting as well. Cam Young. I mean, this one had all of the drama that you could possibly ask for. And I think that was, dare I say, one of the best putts I've ever seen, Christian.
Well, it was the longest part of the weekend, and it was the second to last putt of the weekend. It was pretty crazy because Spaun talked about it afterwards. He said he didn't really know where it was on the leaderboard, didn't know if he needed to guarantee make the putt to win the tournament. He obviously just needed to lag it up there, as you heard the NBC call previously. But he did get a good break that Victor Hovland, who was playing with him, they were the second to last group of the tournament, playing with him, hit his ball right to the same spot of the green on 18. So Hovland was just a little bit further away, and as you know, in the rules of golf, whoever's away, they putt first. So JJ Spaun was able to watch what Victor Hovland's putt did, most notably what the speed it was going up the hill and down the hill in order to guarantee he could get it within gimme range essentially, and didn't really need gimme range, just had to make the dang thing.
I think this adds to the incredible season that golf is having. My question today, 888-760-3776, that is the Baptist Health Hotline here on Theoretically Speaking. Mike Rizzo filling in for Theo Dorsey, Christian Cat behind the glass. This is the most dramatic finish since. And obviously we all go back to the Masters and Rory finally winning the Masters. I think on the golf side, that's it. But Christian, we've had a fun summer in terms of dramatic finishes. Tyrese Halliburton, listen, as much as I want to sit here and complain about the Pacers and the Thunder, let's put my bias aside for a second. Halliburton has been fantastic. And he's been fantastic late in these games and the dramatic finishes. Let's go to the NHL side. You got Marchand getting an overtime goal, giving the Panthers the victory in Game 3. You got Draisaitl giving the Oilers the victory in Game 4, denying the Panthers from going up 3 games 1. We've had a lot of dramatic finishes over the summer. And I think, Christian, that this just plays right into that. And it plays into how I think people are getting bought in on golf once again. Obviously, Tiger Woods and whatever, he was an incredible star. He was the must-see TV. It's to the point, Christian, where I'm tuned into the Canadian Open on some of these weekends because I want to see how things are going to end.
Yeah, did you see what they did during the rain delay that was an hour and a half long at the U.S. Open?
They started playing Tiger highlights.
Yeah, I kind of respect the move. I kind of said, you know what? Why don't we just do that all the time? I don't care if it is a July 22nd Twins-Mariners game and there's a rain delay in the top of the 5th inning. No, let's just play Tigers back 9 at the 08 U.S. Open. Let's just do that instead. I'm sure I'll keep watching that, even though I know how this ends. And could you imagine all the fathers out there who had their Father's Day midday nap after a day of festivities or whatnot, fell asleep on the couch, and they're locked into Adam Scott, they're locked into Victor Hovland. They wake up, is that Tiger? Wait, is he going to make that punt for the top of the green? What's going on here? They're at Torrey Pines now? How confused people must have been waking up for their midday Father's Day naps. There was a little bit of everything on that final round of the U.S. Open at Oakmont.
This is similar to Christian Cat's idea of just playing red zone on a nonstop loop. Listen, I'm all for it. The problem is, Christian, we run, into copyright issues, but that was fun. That was a lot of fun. That whole Sunday yesterday, it's like, oh, God, here we go. We got it. And then all of a sudden it's, wait a minute. Is that Tiger? Sunday Red? U.S. Open? Sign me up. Absolutely. Sign me up.
Yeah, it was pretty spectacular how JJ Spaun exactly did this. He started the entire tournament with the bogey-free round. It's something unheard of. We thought we were never going to see it all tournament long, but no, he fired a 66, a 4-under 66 on Thursday, and they just hung in there. Some days he finished the leader, sometimes Burns finished the leader, hung in there, and then he talked about how he had a dramatic early morning trip to CVS because his daughter was feeling sick with a stomach bug, and he says that might have contributed to going 5 over through the first 6. And he had horrible break after horrible break, going from the terrible Oakmont rough on one side of the fairway to the other side of the fairway into more Oakmont rough. And then he hits one up there that hits the flagstick and rolls 60 feet back off the green, as we've seen many times with these false fronts, where there was every single reason for JJ Spaun to come up short in this one. The last time we saw him on a stage this big, it was the Players' Championship at Sawgrass, and it was JJ Spaun versus Rory McIlroy, where Spaun could have won it on Sunday. A putt was one dimple away from dropping for birdie on the 18th hole, his 72nd hole of the entire tournament, and Spaun could have won the Players' Championship, pretty much the 5th most important tournament of the golf season, if it's not a Ryder Cup year. Didn't go in, so what do? Because of daylight, they have to move the playoff, a 3-hole aggregate, to Monday. And JJ Spaun just stumbled out of the gates and never had a chance. Went to the island green, already down 1 to Rory, and then hits it into the water, where people are questioning why they turned the Golf Channel on a Monday morning, because JJ Spaun versus Rory McIlroy was essentially a TKO, no contest. Yeah. So JJ Spaun could have let that result, way back before any majors were played, he could have let that be in the story of this season for him. And it looked like, as I mentioned before, Spaun in round 4, 5 over through 6, getting bad breaks. Not all of it was his own fault. He could have let that start to his 4th round just crater any chance he had to winning, but he didn't. He stuck around through the delay, reset his mind, and went birdie, par, birdie, birdie to finish the U.S. Open at Oakmont. It was a sight to behold, and we're going to remember JJ Spaun because he's not done yet. That was an incredible performance by him.
Loved every second of it. And Christian, I'm happy you mentioned that tournament because there's another tournament he came really close to winning. That was the Cognizant Classic. He was 17 under at the Cog. If you remember, Joe Highsmith ended up winning with 19. Jacob Bridgman and JJ Spaun were tied for second at 17 under. So this was the big breakthrough moment for Spaun. And who knows, Christian, maybe he is the next big thing on the professional tour. Maybe he is the next big thing on the PGA Tour. Let's see him string together a couple more wins here. But sometimes all you need is that breakthrough moment. All you need is that moment where you finally win. Remember with Lefty and Phil Mickelson, before the Ford hat and the jumping up and down at the Masters, Lefty was kind of known for finishing second in all of these events. So I think with JJ Spaun winning, it was great for the sport, and I think it was great in a golf calendar year, where we have Rory McIlroy finally winning a Masters, and then one of the most dramatic finishes you'll see in golf on a tough course, a wet day, and a 65-foot putt to wrap it up. One thing I love about golf too, Christian, is the families and when you finally win. You know, your wife and kids are on site, and I'm happy, Christian, that you told me the story about his little girl being sick like that. That's what makes it wholesome, right? That's what makes everything worthwhile. Is you see the little girl, both little girls jumping up and down for joy. Daddy, just won one of the biggest tournaments in the world. I think everybody can relate to that.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of a selfish patriotism subliminally for me, where I was rooting for Adam Scott. It would have been awesome. Somehow, Adam Scott winning his second major over 44 years old. That would have been really cool. I was rooting for Adam Scott for a while there, but then I thought, wait a second. This is the U.S. Open. Can I get an American to win this damn tournament, please? Bobby McIntyre, he had a great round, and it looked like he might have had a chance to win that thing where everyone was worse than even par. Everyone was tied at 1 over, and McIntyre, the thing he had over everybody else is that he was in the clubhouse at 1 over par. And the American ended up winning with JJ Spaun. There's a lot of storylines from the weekend. Sam Burns, got burned on I forget which fairway. It probably was the 15th fairway. And his ball was clearly in standing water. And he asked for one rules official. They're like, no, we don't see the water go above the turf or above the fairway, so you do not get any relief from that. So he said, I don't agree with that whatsoever. Please give me a second opinion. He said, go get me your manager, essentially. I would like to speak to them. The second opinion did not give him the relief either, and he hits into the rough on the left side of the green where that kind of took him out of it whatsoever. Terrell Hatton, as you mentioned, as a live guy being in that top 10, bouncing up there, had a chance in the end, but on that 17th hole, the drivable par 4 where everyone was going for it, he just found the rough on a downslope, and then he chips it into the rough as well. He, as he's known for, lets his emotions get the best of him, was getting yelled at from Yinzers of the Pittsburgh crowd who were loving every second of it. Listen, honestly, you can do whatever the hell you want in a golf crowd if you stick through a 90-minute torrential downpour delay. The weather was not good all weekend, and you would think it would soften the course up and make it easier, but it made it even harder down the stretch because people were just melting around JJ Spaun, where Spaun melted on the first 6 holes and then stayed even keel, where everyone saved their collapse for the back 9.
2 things. So, Christian, you are right about Burns because I remember SVP tweeted yesterday saying, I have been arrested, talking about the lie that Burns had to hit on 15. If you go to Scott Van Pelt's Twitter, I mean, Christian, looking at the slush and the divot, definitely probably deserved some relief there. So that was a little surprising. And you mentioned kind of JJ Spaun struggling in the first couple of holes and then having everything kind of go his way as far as people bowing out and him taking advantage of hitting the 65-foot putt. But you want to know what I was waiting for, and I told you in our pre-show meeting, was Scheffler. And you told me one thing that's I got to. Christian, he couldn't hit the short ones.
Yeah.
He could not hit the gimmies. I'm giving you those putts on the course, partner.
From inside 5 feet, Scotty Scheffler was in the bottom 5% of the field. Like, that's how poor he was at the short game, at the shortest of the short game. It wasn't just on the greens. It was inside the metal, as they say, with your putter, where you might be picking those up if you're playing with your buddies on a municipal course. He had so many shots that were left out there and could not capitalize. This kind of set up for he would have been the funniest results of the calamity at the end, where you had, at one point, 12 guys who were within 2 shots of the lead. And we're talking when the leaders were on the back 9 on Sunday, 12 were within 2 shots of the lead, could have taken that home. It was anybody's tournament to win. It was anybody's U.S. Open to win. And Scheffler just couldn't make the short ones. And it wasn't just a Sunday problem. It was an entire tournament problem. And where if he's making those short ones, it's probably a very non-dramatic, anticlimactic tournament because Scotty has a 3-stroke lead and has to play even par golf to win it.
That's his knock, right? Putting, Christian?
Yeah, that's
Scheffler's knock.
Yeah, that's what held him back earlier on in his career, too. He just couldn't get the flat stick to roll. And you're not going to win every tournament. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if Scotty Scheffler is the most dominant guy on tour since Tiger. If you can't make your putts, you're not going to consistently win tournaments at the Tiger level.
888-760-3776. Give us a call in. You got some thoughts on the U.S. Open, JJ Spaun. You know, folks, the most dramatic finish since. And I want you to finish that because we've had a ton of dramatic finishes in hockey, in basketball, in golf. But a 65-foot putt, folks. That's why I compared it to Happy Gilmore. Guy had the stands in the way. It's like he had to hit it off the stands. Virginia Bennett came up to him, 2-putt this, we're going to Sun. Obviously, 2-putt would have done it. But you understand my correlation here. No one expected that putt to go in. And for that putt to be rolled in on a wet and stinky Eastern day in Pennsylvania, not surprised at all that was how it happened. It's how these things go sometimes.
Yeah, Victor Hovland's really likable, so I did mention that I was happy an American won the U.S. Open, and I was rooting for Adam Scott. So I kind of on a win-win scenario there, where either the guy that I was most interested in winning the U.S. Open, getting his second, finally probably securing his Hall of Fame bid Adam Scott versus the American winning, I kind of, the devil on my left-hand shoulder was saying, I would like Spaun to bogey this hole and Victor Hovland to birdie this hole, even them up at 1 over, and we've got a playoff. Not a playoff tomorrow because they mentioned, and Bobby McIntyre was notified about this because he was in the clubhouse at 1 over, where if this did go to the playoff, we would have golf today. And I was kind of rooting for that, I'll be honest. It would have been pretty cool to see JJ Spaun in another playoff on a Monday with names that are far bigger than his. That would have been a very good cinema and another little treat. Like you thought you were done with golf for the 4 days of the weekend? No. Wake up on Monday. We've got more for you.
Now, I know Robert McIntyre probably had some family in attendance too. But, Christian, I had the same mindset you did, and then they started panning to his wife and 2 girls. I'm like, oh, this guy needs to win this. Second in the Cognizant Classic, second in the Players in that ridiculous playoff. Let's not have this guy go to Monday. Let's just have him win it in front of his family. And sure enough, the 65-foot putt was all he needed. And I, Christian, to answer my own question, most dramatic finish since, out of all those things I just mentioned, the Marchand brace that gave the Panthers a win in Game 3, the Draisaitl game-winning goal in Game 4 in Sunrise, Florida, Rory McIlroy winning the Masters. I probably would have to go back to Rory just because, I mean, Christian, that was the talk of golf. Yeah. Before the golf season even started, it's, oh, here we go again. Rory's going to blow it at the Masters. So I got to go with that. But as far as a specific play, a specific moment in time, you can't top a 65-foot putt in the pouring down rain in the middle of Pennsylvania.
I guess so. It's difficult because the reason why Rory's Masters win was so incredible and unforgettable and up there in ranks of viewing experiences that you'll have in sports, let alone golf, it was the amalgamation of big shot after big shot after what in the hell were you doing, Rory? You hit it into the water after laying up on a par 5? Like, there was the combination of dramatics, and some of it was Justin Rose sowing historics to climb up the ranks in order to face an actual playoff. Like, it was wasn't one moment you can actually pick and say, that was it right there.
I think all of us, at least me, Christian, I don't want to speak for you, when that went to a playoff, Rory's got no chance. Oh my God, he blew it.
That was a chance. Yeah, exactly. He bogeyed 18.
And I thought, he's done. He's all but done. Rose is going to be able to take advantage. The villain. And, I understand none of the guys are American. I always root for Americans, but I love Rory. And I think I forgot I loved Rory because, we were doing the U.S. Open updates. You're like, Riz, who's your favorite golfer? And I'm like, I can't have my tongue.
Well, everything Rory's given you on tape since the Masters has been really bad and off-putting because he simply hates the media for reasons unknown. People will make their guesses about it at diving into his personal life a little bit. But Rory barely made the cut, didn't have a banner performance. It's reasonable to kind of forget about Rory for a little bit there. Right. But you mentioned it about how in the Masters 2 majors ago, the reason why it was special as well is because it looked like Rory had no chance after wetting down his leg when the tournament was all but his. It's kind of the same thing here. The reason why this was pretty spectacular in that even though JJ Spaun is not in the same ballpark, he isn't in the same city, he isn't on the same planet as Rory and JJ Spaun, they're completely different in terms of notoriety. It was Spaun having every reason to not answer the call and have the mental fortitude to come back, finish strong, and win the tournament. It's like Rory. Rory had every reason to kind of collapse in the playoff and not beat Justin Rose because yet again, it was Rory McIlroy with the chance, the balls in his court to win it in 72 holes. And for reasons we are still trying to find out, he couldn't whatsoever. And you thought there was every reason for Rory to collapse again, just like Spaun.
And like that putt that Rory missed too, it's like, Rory, you make that 9 times out of 10. That goes in 9 times out of 10 for a great like Rory. But folks, 888-760-3776, that is the Baptist Health Hotline. The U.S. Open was the most dramatic finish since you finished that.